Welcome to Write to Publish, your go-to podcast for all things writing and publishing. I'm Karen Stanley, a 14 times published author and the founder of Mabel and Stanley Publishing. Join me as I share a multitude of tips and insights drawn from my own writing and publishing journey. We'll be hearing from some inspirational authors too, who will share their writing experiences and top tips for success. Each week, we'll learn about an aspect of writing, from composition to genre and from publishing to marketing. Listen in as we learn and chat about all things writing and publishing, and let's get you on the right path.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Write to Publish with me, Karen Stanley. And in this episode, we're going to talk about the messy middle. I don't mean the bit of stuff you put round your midriff after Christmas. I mean the messy middle in your writing. And it's the bit that can trip up a lot of writers and nobody really knows what to do about it and nobody really talks about it. So let's name the problem. What is the messy middle? Now, the messy middle is where, and I've seen this a lot when people submit manuscripts, particularly if they're trying to get an agent or they're trying to get a traditional publishing deal, they will work really, really hard on the first 3 chapters of their novel because that's quite often what they're sending off, as opposed to a synopsis or a breakdown or a bit of a opening scene from their novel, and they work that to death until it's absolutely perfect and brilliant and wonderful, and then quite often will get rejected because then the middle doesn't stand up. The first bit is brilliant and the middle it loses its way. And there's a few reasons why this can do this, not least if you're submitted to a traditional publisher, but quite often because the excitement sort of wears off a little bit. So the idea of, starting is very different to the idea of finishing. And, we're all kind of guilty of that sometimes. We start a project and we're really, really excited. But actually, as things go on, we can lose our way, we can wane a little bit, and actually getting towards the finishing can be tricky. So you're usually going to stall after starting, not before. It's going to be you'll start with gusto, you'll be really excited about the whole thing, and then you get to the middle and you're a bit like, don't really know what to do now. And the missing middle, it is normal, but it's not always discussed. So this is the point where the novelty wears off in your novel or in your writing. Your momentum drops, your doubt will increase, and the book will feel maybe messy, a bit unclear or hard. It will feel harder than expected. It can feel like a bit of a slog. And the reason for that is that you might experience loss of clarity, loss of certainty. You're not fueled by inspiration alone. You've got to keep going. I suppose for anybody who goes jogging, it might be similar. I don't speak from experience there. I don't go jogging very often or ever. But I imagine when you start the race, you're very, very keen. And in the middle, that's when it all gets a little bit messy and you're not quite sure what to do about it. And then your motivation will get a little bit better as you get towards the finishing line. So your emotional investment increases as you go through the book. And then also this means that your self-doubt will start to kick in. And that's where you can question yourself, overthink it, overanalyze, start to doubt your ability. And that can be really, really demoralizing and make you lose your way. So some of the big mistakes that writers make here is they either stop to rethink, replan, restart. You start to really confuse discomfort with failure. It's a bit of that, oh my God, everything's wrong. I might as well scrap the whole thing. It's just not working. And you've really got to let go of perfectionism at this point. And I say this so many times to my writers, let go of perfectionism, keep going. You can't edit a blank page, get it down and then go back and look at it, because if you start to try and overthink, what will happen is you'll lose your train of thought, you'll lose your thread, you'll lose your flow, and actually you make your life harder instead of easier. So the middle really is the bit where you're going to progress, not polish. You're still drafting at this stage. You're not judging, you're drafting, you're getting that first draft down, you're getting your ideas down so that then you can work through it at a later date. And you're getting it down so that you can shape it later. You've got to get those ideas out. You've got to get it onto the page. And that's when you can faff around and polish and refine and tweak to your heart's content. So here's a few little strategies to help you get through the middle. Kind of switch from inspired to scheduled writing. I've talked about this before. If you're always waiting for inspiration to drop, if you're always waiting for the perfect moment, you could be like standing at a bus stop waiting for your bus. It may never come. So really schedule your writing, set your intention, and just get shit done, as they say. Get things done. Get on with it. So schedule your writing, set your intention, put those times in your diary, and get going. Don't keep waiting for inspiration. Don't keep waiting for the perfect plot twist. Don't keep waiting for the perfect time for you to write, because you could be waiting a long time and actually you'll become demotivated and less inspired rather than more. And narrow your focus. I'm getting through this next section. I'm not looking at the whole mountain. I'm not looking at the fact that I've got to get to the end. I'm doing the bit that's in front of me right now at this moment in time, because otherwise I'm going to lose my way. And then by doing that, what you do is you separate the drafting from the editing. Really important. They're two very, very different things. And then you're redefining your motivation as consistency, not enthusiasm. The more consistent you are, the better you will become, the nearer you will get to your end, the nearer you will get to your editing part of the process, which is where you really refine and polish. But staying consistent is what gets the job done, not waiting for inspiration to drop all the time. So your mindset shift here is your job is to finish the draft, not evaluate it. And that goes back to my earlier point about letting go of perfection. You've got to get it down before you perfect it. Yeah. You've got to, I don't know, wash your hair before you blow dry it and tong it and make it look fancy. You can't to get to that point until you've done the initial part. Probably a terrible analogy, but it's the only one I could think of off the top of my head. And don't forget that an imperfect completion will beat perfect abandonment every time. I mean, that's not rocket science, is it? You know, if you complete it and then you can do something with it, you're going to be a lot farther along than if you just go, oh, blow it, everything's a failure, I'm not doing this anymore, and you quit. That's not really, that's not really an option. So the reassurance here is, if you're in the middle and you're doubting yourself and you feel resistance and you feel unsure and you've got a bit of imposter syndrome and you're not quite sure if the plot's working and your middle is really, really messy, take that as a sign that you're actually doing the work. If you don't feel any of those things, you're not doing anything, are you? So trust the process. I've had a huge conversation with a business colleague about this today. It works for business, it works for writing, it works for probably pretty much everything in life. Trust the process, commit to the process, get shit done, get on with it and worry about it afterwards. If you keep procrastinating, overanalyzing, overthinking, worrying about whether it's great or not great, worrying about whether you're good enough or not good enough, you're just going to keep self-sabotaging, really. So just accept that when you get to the middle, if you feel doubt, if you feel resistance, if you feel like you're not quite sure, if it feels messy, then good, because that's sort of usually how it's supposed to feel. You might get the odd light bulb moment where the words are flowing beautifully and you think, oh my God, I've cracked this, I'm on a roll. But you'll get a lot of moments in between where you're like, what the heck am I even doing here? So take that's reassurance that you are actually doing the work, which is progress. Progress beats perfection every time. And wanting to quit often means you're closer than you think. There is a wonderful little diagram. If you're listening on the podcast app and you're not watching this on YouTube, I'm about to wave my hands around and gesticulate wildly here, but there's a wonderful little graphic of a man chipping away at a bit of stone, and you see him with the end side is on the other side of that wall. And you see him quitting. And actually, when you look at the other side, he was inches away from success. And I love that little analogy, that little graphic. When you give up, you might give up at the exact point when you're so close that you've wasted all of your efforts. So keep going, get it down. Don't worry if it's rubbish. Don't worry if it feels a mess. Don't worry if you think, God, I wouldn't dare publish it. You're not supposed to publish at this point. You're not supposed to put this anywhere. You're not supposed to share this with anybody. You're getting it down, okay? But going back to my earlier point, then when you do start to refine it, make sure that you don't always just focus on those first 3 chapters and forget about the middle. The whole thing should feel consistent all the way through, but you can't do that until you've got it on the page. So don't give up, because you could be a lot nearer than you think. Yeah, you might think that you're finished, and actually you're really close. You're really close. And a huge percentage, I don't know what the stats are, I don't know, what the figures are, but I would wager it's probably, I bet it's 80% of writers give up at this point. Yeah, staying on track, keeping going, committing to the process, setting your intentions, making sure that you are like a dog with a bone. You won't quit until you've finished it, no matter how crappy it is, no matter how messy it is, no matter how untidy it is, because you're ahead of the rest if you get to the end, if you've stayed the course, if you've kept on, if you keep on keeping on, isn't that? I think that reminds me of a song. But keep on keeping on until you get to the end, and you're already way ahead of everybody else who has given up at that point. And if you get to the end and think, my God, I don't even know how to sort that out. That's such a mess. I don't even know what to do with that. Step away from it. Go and have a break. Go for a walk. Leave it for a couple of weeks. Go and do something. Go and, do something really random that's completely separated from that, and then come back to it later with fresh eyes. But also get someone else to read it. Get someone else to go, right, I can see straight away this idea is great, but you've got a massive plot hole here that you need to fix. But only get that advice from someone you really trust, because don't forget, this is really raw at this point. If you've got a really cool writer friend who gets where you're coming from, who understands your struggles, who's been there themselves, and who has got some level of authority to give you that advice, and you trust what they give you, and you say to them, look, this is a mess. I haven't finished it, but what's your initial thoughts? And you're going to trust that feedback from someone who, as I say, is well placed to give you that feedback. Then do that if you're brave enough. If not, go back and dissect the book bit by bit. So read through what you've written and try to bullet point each point of the story, each chapter, one line. What happens in that chapter? What happens in that chapter? What happens in that chapter? Then look at the thing overall and say, do you know what? I've got action in chapter 6, chapter 7, nothing's happening. So I either ditch that or I need something to happen. Or chapter 9 and 10 are really strong, but chapter 11's weak. Nothing's going on in that chapter. Or I haven't moved the plot forward. Or, you know what? I've got them getting married and they didn't even meet in chapter 10 when they should have done. So think about that. Once you've written it, then go back and give like a really good bird's eye view. What's happening? What's going on? What can you break down chapter by chapter? Literally bullet points, the money shots. And then you'll be able to see really clearly where you need to work, where you need to refine, where you need to pad things out, where you need to lose the dross, where you need to cut the nothingy scenes where basically everyone just sat down and had a cup of tea, but nothing's happened. So, but don't try and do that as you're writing. Get it down and then see how you go. So my closing message today, not a particularly long episode, but an important one, I think. The middle is where the magic happens. It's where the writers are made. Yes, you need a hook in the beginning, but sometimes that's the easy bit. Thinking of the exciting premise of your story, that can be where the inspiration, strikes. It's keeping it afloat in the middle, keeping the action going, keeping the ascending, rising action towards the real climax before we tip over into the falling action. That's where the magic happens, but it doesn't come easily. It is messy. You will feel resistance. You will feel a bit of, oh my God, this is hard, but get it down and go back to it later. And finishing is a skill. It's not some kind of personality trait that we've all got and we just push the button and we finish. Think about your athletes. what takes them to the end? It's their mindset. It's their unwillingness to give up. It's their willingness to fail until they succeed. It's their, if you were a, I don't know, high jumper, for example, it's their willingness to keep on jumping, falling, cut the knees, falling, cut the other knee, falling, cut the arm, all of those things that happen to them. It's the willingness to keep doing that until they crack it. Writing's no different. So it's that resilience, it's that perseverance, it's that keeping going, trusting in the process, not expecting it to be perfect first time, every time, or any time really. Middles, drafts, they're supposed to be messy. So don't self-sabotage, don't doubt, accept that as part of the process, trust in that process, get it out, and then tidy it up afterwards. Because if you keep going, the book will get much clearer once you finish that first draft, no matter how messy the middle is, no matter how sketchy the ending is, no matter how out of balance it is. You've got a brilliant beginning and a terrible middle and a half okay end, or vice versa. Doesn't matter about that. Get it down, get it all down, and then come back to it and go, right, now I can really see. Now I can really see what's gone right, what's gone wrong, what's the bits that I've missed, what do I need to tidy up? And that's probably best done by just a developmental overview. Bullet point all of your bits and say, right, okay, this middle's weak because I've not got enough action, or this middle's weak because it doesn't tie up to the end, or it doesn't lead me, it doesn't lead on from the beginning. So the middle, it's messy. It's supposed to be messy. Don't doubt yourself. Keep going. Get it down. Trust in the process, and you'll feel better once you do, and then go back to it. So happy writing. If you've got any questions, as always, get in touch. Karen at MabelandStanleyPublishing.com. I love hearing from you. I love hearing where you're at. I love hearing what you're doing. And even if you're writing non-fiction, the same. Get it down and then go back to it later. But if you have any questions about your writing or your publishing journey, Karen at MabelandStanleyPublishing.com. I'd love to hear from you. And if you've enjoyed this episode, please like, share, comment. It helps the buoyancy of the podcast. It helps it to grow, and hopefully we can help more writers that way. It's been great to see you. Thanks for listening in. Love to you all. Keep writing. Let's get you on the right path.